The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com. Hello, we are back with another live episode of Wrestling with Johners. I'm back from my holiday in Greece. Shout out to Michael Jolly, who helped me promote my interview with Steve Bibby last week. So thank you very much. But today I've got another awesome guest and another promoter from my neck of the woods. Probably the closest guest geographically I've ever had in my 3.5 years of doing interviews. Jay White, the promoter from Immortal Wrestling. Jay,
hello,
how you doing, buddy? You okay?
I'm doing great. Thanks, John. How about yourself, mate?
I'm doing excellent. I've got a little bit of a tan. You probably can't tell because it is just a very, very minor tan. Had an excellent holiday. Happy to be back. And
it's great to have you back, mate.
To you. Happy
yeah,
to
it's
be
great
talking
to be
to you, my friend.
It's
so
great.
we are live. We are live, Jay. You can swear if you want to. It's absolutely fine.
I'll try and keep it PG.
For anybody,
this guy is not my nan. My nan's a proper sailor, because she's a proper sailor, mate. But yeah, of course.
For anybody watching or listening live at home, if you want to send in any questions for Jay to ask him about his wrestling fandom, how he got into promoting, about Immortal Wrestling and the show Immortality Awaits, the 23rd of April from the Venom Nightclub here in Westbury, Wiltshire. Send your questions along, ping them through on your chosen device.
Definitely.
And we'll do our very best to answer your questions live on air. But Jay, we are just days away now, as we kind of talk about this.
Yeah.
We are days away from Immortality Awaits, show number 5 for Immortal Wrestling, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is.
So I've got to ask you, with your promoter's hat on, how are you feeling just a few days out from the show, and kind of how's preparation going, more importantly?
Everything's good to go. Little tweaks and nudges here and there. To be honest, I'm nervous because obviously it's been so long since our last one being on November of last year. 20th or 21st? I can't remember. My brain's like a sieve. But yeah, nervous but confident in my wrestlers and going to be confident in my staff. And obviously you're going to be there, so confident in yourself. And the confidence will get there. On the day, it'll be like a big sigh of relief when we open the doors, get everyone in. That weight will be off my shoulders. And then I've just got to worry about the running of the show to make sure it goes right. So it will go from one stress like this to through the roof. But now we're going to have a great show.
If Saturday's show is anything like the show in November, it's going to be a huge success. Then we're going to talk about the November show a bit later on. But with your promoter's hat on, once again, what was it like the day of the show? Do you have any kind of routines, or, you said when the doors open, kind of the stress is out and you just got to enjoy the show and hope it all goes well. But do you have particular things that you like to do on the day of the show itself, Jay?
Personally, I like to set the chairs up myself because I like. There's a saying for it. You like everything. It's like, you want to have it sorted yourself. So if anything goes wrong, it's only on you. There's no one else to blame. Everything's done through you. So when the music's being set up, I like to be there. But like, okay, here's the USB. Here's the running order. I want A first, then B. A's going to win the match. Play their music and everything. Just even making sure the amount of I've got the water there for when they come backstage, because obviously they're going to be sweating. They're going to just work really hard. Sometimes I like to make sure there's the right amount of cash in the petty cash to this. Well, that being a very important thing, yeah. So if someone comes in with a £50 note and we've only got pound coins, they're going to have a lot of shrapnel in their pocket at the end of the day. Yeah,
absolutely. But like I say, you kind of go into autopilot, I'm sure, when you're prepping for a show and on the day of the show. But like I say, you've been prepping for this show for a few months now, so I'm sure you got all your ducks in a row. I'm sure you got it all organised. But
I've got all my eggs in my basket.
You have, and all them wonderful sayings. Now, some of my viewers or listeners might not be too familiar with Immortal Wrestling. As you said, Saturday's show is going to be its 5th show. And I know it started in 2018. We'll get into the origins of Immortal Wrestling a bit later on. But if you can describe or sum up what Immortal Wrestling is all about, give us a flavour for what Immortal Wrestling stands for, what it's all about, and who you attract your product to, more importantly.
Now, that is a question and a half. First of all, it's based for family. It's the kids and everything. Because if we look back to the show November We Go Again, people like Lion Kid, the kids were screaming for him. And it's not just at Immortal Wrestling they were screaming. Wherever Lion Kid goes, they scream for him. But I believe in bringing top talent that fans don't have to overpay as they would if they were to go to a WWE live event, for example, and save up absolutely months and say they're sat, there's like a 15,000 arena and they're sat right up at the top. I like using the small arenas, charging a reasonable price to see top talent and not just there for like money. Because I'm not Vinnie Mac. If I had the money, I'd go probably do the 15,000 thing. But I believe
that value for money, don't you, Jay? Give them value for money. Yeah,
fans deserve to not overpay to see top quality stars and feel like they've lost out because they're sat row 7,000 in a stadium.
Yeah.
With you asking about Immortal, as I said, the audience is family. It's what I believe in. I had ideas of wanting to do an 18+ show, but it's always going to be targeted toward family, I believe.
Yeah. And certainly, just to echo your sentiments, one thing that I noticed back to the November show was you had a strong family audience there, which made made a lot of noise. The kids were really into it. The adults were really into it. But you provided a fantastic night of not just a family-friendly entertainment, but amazing wrestling action, didn't you? Thanks. So you cover so many bases with the variety there, the match quality, and the right type of fans for the type of products that you're promoting.
Yeah, I've got to admit the first show back, because the first shows that I didn't actually advertise as much as I should have, and I think our biggest attendance was about 30 people. Right. And that was down to me not advertising, even though we had some top talent on those shows building up. It's because I didn't advertise enough. But going back to November, which was our 4th show, obviously, and the first one back after the pandemic, I was really nervous. I'd gone out, done the posters and the flyer and then the leaflets and all that. I was wondering, I was like, please don't let it like me before. I put in the effort, I put in the time, put in the organization. Fingers crossed, please let it pay off. And it did. And I couldn't have been more happy than I was the night. I'm not gonna lie, I probably did shed a tear by the end of the night, and just a massive relief, and I slept like a log.
Yeah, no, it was a. I'm not just saying this, but it was a fantastic show. Probably one of my favorite shows of 2021, and some of my favorite matches from 2021 came from that show as well. And if anybody thinks I'm kind of making that up or exaggerating, you look at some of these matches from the November show from Immortal Wrestling. Frankie T versus Johnny Storm for the fighting championship, the inaugural fighting championship match. And that was, I've got to say, it was a great match. I'm sure Frankie and Johnny would agree, but there were people kind of standing up and applauding that. And Frankie walked away your first ever fighting champion. Another standout moment was Kelly Six versus Joe Lando. Now, individually, everybody knows what great performers, what great wrestlers Joe Lando and Kelly Six are. Joe Lando, one of the most outstanding young wrestlers on the UK scene.
Oh, definitely.
Kelly Six is just a true pro's pro, and is still doing amazing business up and down the country. And that was an incredible match. And then get this for a main event, Damien versus former Immortal Wrestling, the first ever Immortal Wrestling champion, Lion Kid. Now, this was a real, like Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader match, evil versus good guy. You had the family and the kids on the side of Lion Kid. And then, of course, you had Damien there. But it's real contrasting styles, real mix of styles, great dynamics in the ring. And that led to a fantastically entertaining main event, buddy. But, that's just kind of half of the matches that took place in November.
Yeah.
But a great show, and you introduced me to so many new faces and new names that I hadn't heard of before. I've got
I'm
to say,
glad I could be of service.
I wasn't too familiar with Arthur Starrick before that show in November, but what an amazing performer. And he walked away with the Cruiserweight Championship as well.
Yeah, he did.
Is it Camus as well, the guy from France?
Camus Socrates, yeah.
Camus Socrates, and Shane Saber from Canada. So you had a real international flavour to that show in November, didn't you?
Yeah, with the international flavour, it was sort of like the sprinkles on the ice cream. I was just really, I was like, oh my God, I never thought I'd have international talent, but here I am. I've got not one, but two. And I haven't got one from also in Europe, as we were at the time before the Brexit, but we've actually got one from Canada. And speaking to Shane after the show, he's actually had matches against the like of Tommaso Ciampa and EC3. And I was like, what? We had someone of that caliber that a promotion trusted Shane to work with EC3 and Tommaso Ciampa. I was like, damn, how lucky were we?
A real feather in your cap.
Yeah, and the match that they put on, it was Sunset Skit, Dalton Garrett, Shane Saber, Camus Socrates, Jody Fleisch, and Drake Winter. Six-pack challenge, a clash of veterans, heavyweights, technicians. Yeah, it was like something that was meant to happen. And they always say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. But I could say with full confidence that adding Shane and Camus into that match made it just so much sweeter. Yeah.
And you said, you slept soundly the night of the show, but you must have been on cloud nine as well, because I know you're a bit nervous before the show, but after the show, you must have been so relieved and so kind of thrilled at how it went.
So thrilled, just so relieved and everything. I think after the show, obviously we packed everything, but I think I was there with a few of the wrestlers. We had a few drinks till about maybe 10:30, and we still had to drive up. Thank God only one of them had I think it was a sip, and he remembered, he's got to drive. So we had he had a bottle of water instead. But it was just great, to be honest. Sometimes you just relive it, and like during a day you're left alone with your thoughts, and you think back to back in the spring of 1960 or whatever. But for me, it was the rest, and be like that feeling. I just want to experience that again. And hopefully we're going to do it this Saturday at Immortality Awaits.
Absolutely. And just one final thing on We Go Again from November last year. Like I say, a great show. So many great matches, so many great highlights. But you are feeding the matches out slowly but surely on your YouTube channel, aren't you, Jay? So tell us what we can sample if we head over to the Immortal Wrestling YouTube page. What can we see there from November's show to whet people's appetite ahead of Saturday?
We are planning on releasing tomorrow the main event, which was the first time clash of Damien and Lion Kid for the title. That is one we are planning on releasing, and currently thinking of maybe releasing the six-pack challenge on Friday night as a sort of build-up. Like, ladies and gentlemen, you've been good to us, so here's another treat. Here's the main event, but also the six-pack challenge with all the international, the vets, the variety of skill sets that the wrestlers possess, to sort of say thank you. There's a few other one or two matches we're going to release in the coming weeks after, but obviously we don't want to give it all in one go, because we don't want to be left with an empty well of content that people can expect.
Exactly. And there's a few matches already up there from November's show. So you can, if you're not too familiar with Immortal Wrestling, go out and check Immortal Wrestling's YouTube channel out. So like I say, just go onto YouTube and search Immortal Wrestling. It will come up straight away. And there's some great highlights and some great matches there from November's show, just to give you a flavor of what Immortal Wrestling's all about ahead of their next epic show, which we'll talk about now, Jay. It's going to be this Saturday, the 23rd of April. Immortality Awaits. You can see there just from the main poster. It's already got a stacked lineup from Venom Nightclub in Westbury, Wiltshire. Let's talk about it, shall we? And let's go through some of the match cards, some of the match graphics. We spoke highly about Joe Lando and his debut outing for Immortal in November against Kelly Six. Now this one, wow. It kind of takes it into a new gear, because you've got Martin Kirby there against Joe Lando. You've got a veteran against, let's say, up-and-comer, two of the best wrestling talents in the country. tell us about these two individuals and what sort of match do you think they're going to have on the night then, buddy?
I'll start with Martin Kirby first. I first followed him when it was WCPW, What Culture Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
And I saw the match. I can't remember who he had, but the way he showed his skills and the crowd responded to him when he won the title before, I think he may have lost it a few seconds later. Right. But the way that they responded to him, I was like, I knew I needed to have this guy on the show. Plus, his career, it's an endless list. He's wrestled all over the world. He's held titles all over the world. He's well known. He's trained so many people, and he's one of the most underrated British wrestling vets that we have. People don't know him enough. And I thought with someone like Joe Lando, what he's capable of, he's one of the best high flyers in Europe already. A lot of people are saying that. And what is he? He's not even 25, I think. And
I think he's probably in his early 20s, if I'm honest.
Early 20s. And he's only getting better. If he's not signed by NXT UK in the next year or so, I think I'm going to be like, what's wrong with you? Look at this guy. Look at the matches he had. He's already debuted for Progress, where he had an amazing, was it an 8-man tag, I think, with Danny Black, Lewis Cleary, and LJ Cleary, I think.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
It's a stacked match, but I think he's had a couple of matches.
He's knocking on all those doors.
Knocked it out of the park, 100%.
Oh, definitely. And he's knocking on all those doors, and he's getting an answer because he's worth it. And what not better than to put these two all together and put on an absolute barn burner.
Absolutely. And before we move on to our next match, I've got to say, I think Joe Lando is responsible for the spot of the night in November when he did a moonsault off of one of the dancing cages at the nightclub. Do you remember that? Pretty awesome and pretty memorable.
I actually
on the outside onto the concrete floor.
Funny story about that. I originally went up to Joe before the show and I was like, hey, fancy doing some sort of acrobatic move off the cage? And he was like, yeah, sure, I can work. So I was like, oh, I'm only joking, but I'm like, if you could do so, sure, go ahead. And it was the spot of the night.
It really was. Let's talk about this one because the match has changed slightly. Originally, it was going to be Amber Joe and Curtis Elliott, her regular tag team partner, against the fighting champion Frankie T and Champagne Charlie. Curtis Elliott, unfortunately, can't be part of the match. So tell us what you've done to change. There's changes to this match, then, Jay.
To be honest, very little. It's gone from the tag team now to a triple threat. So, triple threat for the Fighting Championship. Your defending champion Frankie T will take on the notorious Amber Joe and the very lovable and cheerful Champagne Charlie.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be great. And obviously, there's a little bit of a history here from the match in November because it was Curtis Elliott versus Champagne Charlie, which is available to view on your YouTube channel, as I said.
Yes, it is.
So there is a bit of a background story here. There is a little bit of a storyline. So having Champagne Charlie with his chance to get one up or get some revenge on Amber Joe because of her attacks after the match, the opening match last time round will be something that Charlie will certainly have in his mind. But as we said, Frankie had an amazing match against Johnny Storm in November, and he's back defending his title for the first time in a triple threat. So should be a very, very fun title match. Any final thoughts on that match? The
reason the Fighting Championship is meant to be like sort of a hardcore, but like 24/7 rule. But the that's where I got the idea for the Fighting Championship from.
Right.
The Fighting Championship rule is simple. Fair enough. Well, I'll tell you. The rule for the Fighting Championship is if the champion cannot defend it on the day of the show, then they are immediately stripped of it. And a match will take place on the night to crown maybe a second inaugural champion. And if it were to happen again, then we'd have a third inaugural champion and so on and so forth. But that's the idea. It's so the card's not just tag teams, triple threats, and singles. So at least there's always going to be a title match on the show.
Gotcha.
That is the plan behind it. So it really does benefit. And not with the sporadic changes either, with a 24/7. But because it is quite a big belt. I think it was about 5 kg in weight. So constantly swapping that about if it were to hit someone in the head, also that would hurt. But yeah, really looking forward to it. Personally, I think Frankie T will walk away with the title. Just he's still got so much more to give.
And that's just a personal opinion from your fans' perspective, of course. But no, that's going to be a good match to look forward to. And then we've got a rematch from the November show for the Junior Heavyweight Championship. Current champion Casey Wilde against Lucky Bowden. These two had a barn burner of a match, if I can use that saying. Steal it from good old JR. But they did have an amazing match in November. And you've got them back again to have a rematch on Saturday. Tell us about it.
Yeah, originally these two tag team wild cards, they were like best friends and everything. But when the title was on the line, Casey was like, obviously, look, you were my brother, and I stress the term were, but Casey obviously saw that glint off the title and how good that would look around his waist, and stabbed his brother, his former best friend, his former tag team partner, in the back just to capture the IW National Junior Heavyweight Championship. And we were all gobsmacked backstage. You yourself, we were like, wait, what's going on? These guys had agreed before it was going to be down the middle, but obviously we were wrong, and Casey's intentions were not to be expected. But we decided that because of Casey Wilde's actions, Lucky was entitled to a rematch for the champion. So we granted Casey, yes, you are the champion, but you will be facing Lucky because you screwed him over. And to make it fair, so nothing can be held back, it is now a no DQ match.
It is indeed, and that's going to add an extra bit of spicy sauce onto that match, and see if they can up the ante from their match a few months ago in November. And then we got the Women's Championship match. Now, there was a bit of controversy coming out of November's show, wasn't there? Because Amber Joe kind of, did she steal the belt or proclaim herself as the champion? Well, it looks like the title bout has been relinquished from Amber Joe's firm grasp. And we've got Nightshade and Madison Miles, two of the best on the UK scene and internationally, going up against each other for the Women's Championship on Saturday. Tell us about it.
Yeah, with Amber Joe, the self-appointed, and I'd say that in quotation marks, self-appointed. We got in touch with Amber because she actually went home without us knowing, taking the title with her. And that is the cheek of Amber Joe, the pure cheek of the Notorious Angel. But yes, both parties had agreed that being self-appointed was not correct, and we could only crown a champion on a show and not just taking the belt away. But originally it was meant to be Bunny Mallow versus Nightshade versus Amber Joe for the women's title. So I can understand Amber's frustration and be like, this is mine. I can understand that. Yeah, but she went about it the wrong way. She was impatient.
Absolutely. And before we go to the next match, the Emperor, Drake Winter, has been in touch. And thank you, Emperor, for watching. And he's said Immortal is a fantastic company. And he follows that up with Casey versus Lucky is always a match of the night candidate.
Oh, definitely.
We can't disagree with the Emperor there. And thank you so much for watching. Now, leaked to the Women's Championship match. We've also got Aluna Blue. You've promised that she will be in action Saturday night, the 23rd of April, from the Venom Nightclub in Westbury. Can you give anything away as to what Aluna's involvement might be in the night? If it's top secret, you don't need to tell us, but she is going to be there, isn't she?
Yes, she will be. And what I will say right here and now is there will be 2 women's matches on the night for the Women's Championship, but we will also have a number 1 contenders women's match. So you will know straight after who the champion will be facing for the next show. However, we are not going to disclose Aluna Blue's opponent. That is to be found out on the night. I can't give you everything all in one go. Sorry. But it is a number 1 contenders match for the women's title. And Aluna Blue will be one of those 2 ladies.
Awesome. And I've got to say, going back to the November show, one of the most entertaining characters, both inside and outside of the ring, was Xander. And Xander is back, isn't he?
Yes,
this time
he
against
is. Yes.
Dale Johnson. And this is a number one contenders match, according to the graphic, for the Cruiserweight Championship.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm not
That's right,
mistaken,
yeah.
the Cruiserweight Champion is Arthur Starrick, who unfortunately can't be there on Saturday, but he will know who his next challenger will be after Saturday night, and it will be between one of these two gentlemen. So tell us about these two opponents and the match we're likely to see on Saturday then, Jay.
Dale Johnson being from the Evolution Academy, he's quite a hot prospect. And as soon as I saw him, I was like, I know who he could have a fab match against. And I thought instantly Xander. And what even way to make it sweeter than throwing in the number one contendership for the Cruiserweight title. Plus, the original match was Starrick versus Xander for the Cruiserweight. So I thought, okay, let's throw Xander a bone. Let's give him the chance to compete for the Cruiserweight title, but let's not just give it to him straight away. Let's put him through the process. So first, he has to face Dale Johnson, and obviously the winner of that will go to face on Arthur Starrick at the next show. To be honest, I'm going to be putting my money on Dale Johnson if I were a betting man, because if you would just look up his clips, how charismatic he is and how over he is with the fans, I believe he may even be their middleweight champion. So he's already got gold around his waist. And I'm just looking forward to seeing with my own eyes what he can showcase. But with no shadow of a doubt, they are going to have a pretty good match.
Yeah, and I'm going to counter that, and I'm going to put my money on Xander, because for my money, pound for pound, Xander is probably one of the best and most entertaining characters and wrestlers on the UK circuit. So I think that match is going to be one to watch. Don't take your eyes off that ring for a single second when those two are there. Now, I've got to take my hat to you and congratulate you on organising the next match, because you've got 4 members of the legendary Knight family, not only in the same venue on the same night, but in the same ring at the same time in the same match. You've got PJ Knight, who is really making a big name for himself across the UK scene, against RJK, Ricky Knight Jr., one of the best pro wrestlers in the country right now, against Zach Zodiac, another legend of the UK scene, and Tony Knight carrying all the gold there. Now, this is no ordinary 4-way match, but this is for the inaugural King of England Championship. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, that is the prize there, the King of England Championship bout. And it'll be one of those lucky knights that will walk away with that championship on Saturday night. But this is a bit of a coup. And like I say, I congratulate you, my friend, for putting that one together. Tell us about, how did you organise that match to start off with, and how much are you looking forward to seeing it on Saturday night?
I'll take you back a bit before, and I'll actually explain the reason behind the King of England Championship.
Yeah.
Go back 20 years on February the 9th, FWA held, was it their revival at the Crystal Palace Arena on Spike TV. I think they had a few thousand in attendance, and I thought, what better way than, sadly, FWA aren't around anymore, because they were a great promotion. They were the leading promotion in Britain for quite a while, and I wish I could have actually gone to that show, but I think I was probably, I was 6 or 7, so I was only a wee babby, and I wasn't even aware of wrestling then. But I just thought of as a homage to how great they were, and a big fan I was once I discovered their products and what they did. What better way than to honour the FWA, but also bring it in to the 21st century. The King of England Championship 2.0, let's call it. Because originally, I believe it was a medal presented by the Dynamite Kid to Jody Fleisch. But I would have thought that a championship would have been a belt. And again, with it being the King of England 2.0, we needed something different. We wanted something. So I thought, let's have a belt made of pure metal. And as a lot of people could see, yes, the base template was after the $1 million title, but the $1 million title isn't around anymore, but this is. And they're not actually copying each other. It's got its own differences. It's not got diamonds in or anything, and it's not got the constant dollar symbol. We've actually got knights, we've got crowns, we've got swords on there. we've got Lions, but it's going to be absolutely great. And you asked about how I came to put in all 4 of the knights, all 4 of them in the ring. I just thought for a belt unlike no other, we need to have a match unlike no other. And in that ring alone, there's at least, as far as I'm aware, at least PJ Knight, Ricky Knight Jr., and Zack Zodiac are all former WAW World Heavyweight Champions. I think most of all recently being PJ, until he lost it a week or 2 ago.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure who, but I'm sorry, I'm lost for words because it is literally going to be an absolute barn burner. If it wasn't for the main event, which, as you know, we'll talk about later, this would have taken center stage, have been the main event. But I thought, let's just go bigger. Let's go big. Let's just, yeah. I'm sorry, as you can tell, I'm just lost the words.
You've not just gone big. You've kind of, you've gone stratospheric with the card and with that match alone. I don't think there's no other. No, you've broke the mold. That's it.
Yeah.
You've reinvented the mold as far as putting that match together. It really is fantastic. And then let's talk about the main event. For the Immortal Championship, the current British heavyweight champion, of course, Damien, who beat Lion Kid in that epic match last November.
Absolute David and Goliath clash.
Absolutely. Against a kind of somebody from Liverpool, a TNT, is it the Ignition champion? TNT
Ignition champion.
Cam Solas.
Yeah.
And then we got Charlie Winston, 6'10", 300+ pounds. And then you got Jay Cutler.
Jay Jutler.
You got it. That's right. That's why I brought it on. but if that wasn't big enough, as if that wasn't an epic main event enough, Jay, exclusively on the Wrestling with Jollers podcast, you've got an announcement that's going to make this match even bigger and greater, haven't you? Go for it.
So Dan Maloney will no longer be Immortality Awaits. So what we have done is we have taken Ystein Rees and put him in the main event. So it's now a fatal 5-way for the IW National Heavyweight Champion, which just makes it even better.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be a fatal 5-way, now including Ystein Rees. I'm going to quickly run through the matches again just to demonstrate again how epic this show is. Joe Lando versus Martin Kirby, amazing. And then you've got a triple threat for the fighting championship. Amber Joe versus current champion Frankie T versus Champagne Charlie. Then you got Casey Wilde versus Lucky Bowden in a rematch from November for the Junior Heavyweight Championship and in a no DQ match. Then you got Nightshade versus Madison Miles for the Immortal Wrestling Women's Championship. You've also got Aluna Blue in a #1 contenders match against a mystery opponent. You have to be there at the Venom Nightclub on April the 23rd to find out who will be her opponent, to find out who will be the new #1 contender to the previous match that I mentioned. Got Xander versus Dale Johnson, a #1 contenders match for the Cruiserweight Championship. Then you got the fatal 4-way for the King of England Championship, PJ Knight, RKJ, Zack Zodiac, Tony Knight. And then, of course, you've got the main event, which is now Cam Solas, Charlie Winston, Damien, Kay Jutler, and of course,
well done, sir.
I got it right. Yes, pat on the back for Johners, and of course, Ystein Rees making it a fatal 5-way for the Immortal Wrestling National Heavyweight Championship. My friends, that is an epic lineup, and I can't wait to be there to witness it. But if you got one final kind of like sell, one final push as to why anybody should attend, if they live in the local area, even if it's like a 30-minute drive away, why they should come down to Westbury on Saturday to see that amazing card, what would you like to tell them?
You will not find better value for money than what we are capable of showcasing at Immortal Wrestling. And a few of you may have seen that in November, but come down for yourself again this Saturday, April 23rd, Venom Nightclub, Westbury, Wiltshire, and see for yourself what we mean value for money and just have a great night.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we throw a plug to our sponsors, 1310 Apparel, Drake Winter, thank you so much for watching. He throws us another couple of mentions. Good luck to Immortal and everyone there on Saturday. But remember this, he eliminated Jody Fleisch and Shane Saber single-handedly last time. The Emperor will be back and will soon be the IW champ. And to follow that, the Emperor Drake Winter says, fun fact, that he's wrestled 3/4 of the men in the night's 4-way match. So there we go. Drake Winter is the man, and like I say, a fantastic professional on the UK scene. And thank you so much for watching.
So underrated, so underrated.
And keep sending in your comments. And for anybody else watching at home, if you want to send in your comments, your questions for Jay White,
please do. I'm here to answer them. I want to hear what the fans have to say.
To answer all of your questions, but keep sending them in. But Jay, I'll be back to you very shortly. Got to throw a quick sponsors plug to 1310 Apparel, who are the excellent sponsors to the Wrestling with Johners podcast and the Johners Podcasting Network. And if you head over to their store at WrestleMerch Central, you can see their fantastic range of apparel, including their hardcore range of hoodies, t-shirts, their lucha range with beanies, shirts, hoodies, etc. And of course, their more traditional 1310 apparel and Four Corners designs. And if you head over to their WrestleMerch Central store or their Big Cartel store, you can see the exclusive 1310 Heidi Katrina design, which is out now. And if you're a listener or a viewer to the Wrestling with Johners podcast, you can take advantage of our deal with 1310 Apparel over on their WrestleMerch Central store. Go to 1310.merch.global, hit up 1310 store over at WrestleMerch Central, and you can save yourself 10% discount at checkout by using the discount code 1310WMC. That's 1310WMC. Save yourself 10% off 1310 Apparel at their global store at WrestleMerch Central. So there we go. That was a bit of a mouthful, but thank you so much to 1310 Apparel for being fantastic sponsors. And Jay, it's back to us. So I've got to ask you,
go ahead.
Immortal Wrestling celebrates its 4th year anniversary this year. Now, you could question whether it counts with the pandemic and being out of action for so long, but you've got your 5th show, 4 years in. I've got to ask you, as a wrestling promoter, what were the circumstances around the birth and the genesis and the idea of creating Immortal Wrestling? How did it all start?
I'll start on the name Immortal Wrestling. Back in 2010, TNA decided to go head-to-head with WWE in the Monday Night Wars again. And at the time, I wasn't aware of things like kayfabe and things. I knew the matches were already predetermined in that, but I just loved the story that they were telling. It made me laugh, and it drew my attention. And that's what you want in a product. And the name Immortal, the faction, I just straight away, I like that. And what annoys me is I would have liked to put a group in Immortal Wrestling called Immortal, but sadly they didn't. So I went, but that's what actually inspired Immortal Wrestling, because I actually did like it. You had Abyss, who was actually one of my favorite TNA wrestlers when he was wrestling, former NWA champion tag team as well, and X Division, and the Legends title. God, they've renamed that so many times. What was it? Legends TV. And you had Scott Steiner as well. He did. He had that sort of mini feud with Rob Terry, and I think he said, you're only one chemical away from a disaster comparative to Chernobyl when they were doing the whole muscle thing and that.
Yeah.
But this was my first time actually seeing Hulk Hogan live on telly. I'd seen 1 or 2 clips of him before, and I loved his stuff on the mic with Eric Bischoff and the banter that they would exchange, and I was just really hooked on it. So that's where the name for Immortal came. So then Immortal, then obviously wrestling, you have most promotions like ICW Insane Championship Wrestling, Progress Wrestling, Wrestle Carnival, for example, WAW World Association of Wrestling. A few people at the start were like, why not call it ICW Insane Championship Wrestling? Because there's already an ICW.
Correct.
Why not Immortal Wrestling Federation? Why does it have to have federation? Why does it have to be championship? Like, you've got ECW, you had the World Wrestling Federation. Why not just Immortal Wrestling?
Yeah.
Two simple words. Plus, it's easier for a social media handle. You don't have to go, Immortal Wrestling Federation or Immortal Championship Wrestling. So it makes it easier. But that was where the name came from Immortal Wrestling. And I know a lot of people, now they look back on TNA versus WWE Monday Night Wars, that it wasn't successful. But Bubba the Love Sponge, God, he was like the worst thing, cutting those segments in the dimly lit corridors and being like, oh, no, this beaten guy down doesn't need help. He just needs an interview. He's like, tell me who just beat you down? And he's like interviewing the unconscious body on the floor. And as much as I hated Bubba the Love Sponge character, I did like his humor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And your first show launched in 2018.
Yes.
So from kind of the original concept coming up with Immortal Wrestling, making that decision, yes, I'm going to be a promoter and start my own wrestling company, to your first show, kind of how long a period was that and how much planning and time went into that first show?
I knew that I'll share a story with you, John. I originally went to go and train with a school, but the sad thing is that really hit my confidence because I actually wanted to be a wrestler. I was there. I paid my weekly fee and I go and train. But a few weeks, say about a month or two after, they found out I had learning difficulties. As myself, I am a high function autism, and they were like, they put me to the side and they were like, "Oh, you didn't tell us you got learning difficulties," and I was like, "Yeah, I didn't see why that should matter." And they were like, we sort of don't really want to train your sort of people. And I was like, my sort? And they were like, less able. And I was like, you're basically telling me you don't want to teach handicapped people. And I was like, I just didn't go back from them. And it really hit my confidence for a year or two. And I was like, I really wanted to go back into training with someone else, but there was no one around back where I used to live. So I thought, let's just do the next best thing and become a promoter. Because I love entertaining people. I remember when I was younger, growing up in Lincolnshire, going to Butlins and you see all the redcoats smiling, entertaining. I wanted to do that. And I actually had a job for a redcoat for an interview at Minehead, but we hadn't finished a unit on our college assignment, even though they told us we'd finished. And I was like, oh my God, 2 weeks I finished my college. I'm going to go. I'm going to be have the chance to be an entertainer. But then my assessor would be like, sorry, we've got a unit to do. And it took up 3 weeks. And the day of the interview was when I had to do the assignment. I was just absolutely gutted, but I still persevered and everything. And the birth of Immortal Wrestling happened.
There we go, and we're all thankful that it did happen, especially with the amazing matches you've put on and the great card we got to look forward to on Saturday, for sure. And ahead of that kind of first show, 2018, what were some of the kind of trickier or more difficult aspects that you found to put in a show on? I mean, did you surround yourself with people that gave you advice, or what did you find kind of tricky being a new promoter?
It was building the contacts, really. I sort of went in head first thinking, you know what? I've got a friend who is in the business. I'm like, I can speak to them and get advice from them, but I don't need anyone else. So I just thought, okay, let's have these big names, that person, this group and all that, and just go all out. And I thought, as I said, that I didn't actually advertise for the first 3 shows and the attendance was very minimal. That the big names would sort of draw itself, but I was wrong. And for anyone who's watching who wants to be a promoter, advertising is key. You've got to pay your dues, doing the flyers, the leaflets, the posters. Obviously, do the posters where you're allowed to. Excuse me. Pardon me. But going back to it, I thought the big names would carry it. And even though they shared it on social media and the people who interacted, they were like, oh, up the other end of the country, in Europe and America. And I was like, damn, this is no good for me. And the closer it got to the show, I realized that, like, damn, this show's not going to be packed as I wanted it to be. And it was down to my advertising. But now, as we said, we advertised loads and we sold out Venom Nightclub, over 100 people. And we're hoping to do the same, fingers crossed, for Saturday, April 23rd, Immortality Awaits.
Absolutely. And like I say, I suppose for any new promoter, there's valuable lessons to learn. But this gentleman here was your first ever champion.
Yes, he was.
Lion Kid, and like I say, a veteran of the UK scene. I've recently had Wade or Lion Kid on the Wrestling with John's podcast, and a fantastic interview. Go out of your way to check that out on YouTube or any where you get your audio podcast. But he was a great representative, a great figurehead, a great personality, a great wrestler to be your first champion. You must have been really proud to have had him as your first Immortal champion.
Yeah, definitely. The decision was there from the get-go. I'd heard of him, how the fans reacted to him, his background. I didn't even need to ask him to tell me about where he trained that, because I just heard so much good feedback about him. I was like, I knew this guy would be brilliant to put the strap on to start off the company.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell us about your wrestling fandom then, Jay. You mentioned a bit about TNA. I know we've spoken a little bit about your love and your fandom for pro wrestling. Do you remember when pro wrestling first came into your life, how you were first introduced to it?
That's a story. It was Christmas 2008, I believe, and I was gifted SmackDown vs. Raw featuring ECW for Christmas, and it had The Undertaker on the front, Bobby Lashley, and I think maybe 2 or 3 other wrestlers, but I can't remember. And I just fell in love with it from then, and I was like, this is brilliant, and it's entertaining. I sort of just hooked on it straight away, and then obviously I played 2009, 10, so on and so forth, and my love for wrestling just grew, and then I realised, oh, it's on the telly also, and I went through it, and I think at the time, the only thing that was available, because we didn't have Sky Sports, it was on Sky One on a Sunday morning, 11 till 12, WWE Experience. That was it. I was watching that. Was it? I think it was Josh Matthews or Abraham Washington. Well, didn't they have an announcer called Abraham Washington do it a few times?
They did indeed. That does ring a bell. Around 2010. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. I do like watching WWE Experience. It would come up and be like, oh, this week on the highlights, and it wowould show the clips like before it was Then, Now, Forever, like You're Not Alone and all that. It was we're like Triple H doing the thing. We're like, I got the titles. It's like Hulkamania's running wild, witness, and all that. And I was just like, yeah, this is blowing wrestling. Let's watch this. This is my Sunday. And and then afterwards, I'd go straight upstairs on the Xbox and I'd do some of the matches. I'd set them up myself and be like, no, I'm the champion. I changed the result. I got all the power. Yeah, I think I got so loud a few times that maybe once or twice we had neighbor complaint because I was like, a new champion, because I was so loud. It wasn't my own fault. I forgot the window. Well, it was my fault because I forgot the window was open. But yeah, that's how I got into it.
That's really awesome. Going back to you as a promoter then, Jay.
Yeah, sure.
I know we know each other very well. We've met quite a few times. We speak regularly. But in one of our first conversations, you explained to me that the story about going to training and kind of what happened there, as you just explained. But when you started as a promoter, and it's the case now, you've got to be one of the youngest promoters in the UK. And I'm sure you'll tell us how old you are in a minute.
From what I'm aware, yeah, I'm 25. Yeah,
25, and so you'd have been 21 when you started as a promoter.
Yeah,
which is particularly young in any field. But you're probably one of, if not maybe the only wrestling promoter with a learning difficulty with autism.
Yeah.
So that does kind of put you in quite a unique field in terms of your age, and everything else that goes with it. When I kind of explain that, how does that kind of make you feel regarding being a very young promoter, having learning difficulties, but it is very unique on the UK circuit?
It's been challenging because I'm not gonna lie, I have been called some offensive slurs and everything, and people have said that what I did was ridiculous, and this was like when it was shows 1, 2, and 3 that I didn't advertise and I didn't know what I was doing, so I might as well give up. But I bounced back from it and I was like, you know what? I went to a school for people who learn difficulties. I learned to control my anger and everything, but I also learned to open my mind to the broader side of life and actually figure I'm going to leave school eventually and I'm going to have to do something. And as I said, I'd already found that love for wrestling and I sort of knew I'd like to be in the entertaining business. So, as I say, we bounced back. and I put on better shows. I used the fuel. It fueled the fire, the negative comments.
Absolutely. Yeah.
At first,
it gave you that motivation to prove everybody wrong, I'm sure.
Yeah, and to be honest, going back when you look through all the old conversations, which you sometimes do on social media, I went back like maybe 5 years ago on the messages the other day, and I read the conversation, and I was so childish. I actually stuck the middle finger up to the phone and be like, you know what, here's me 5 years later. I'm on top of the mountain myself.
Yeah.
It's just a big middle finger for you, and childish as it sounds, it was funny.
Yeah, but you use that criticism and negativity to motivate you and to inspire you to be the promoter and the entertainer that you are now. And like I say, I think the November show last year was one of the best shows I saw. When British wrestling reopened its doors in 2021, one of the best shows out of all the ones I went to and saw. And like I say, I'm completely blown away by the stacked lineup you had then and that you've got coming April the 23rd, this Saturday, just around the corner, which demonstrates what a fantastic promoter you are and what a great advert you are for UK wrestling promoters. As we kind of start to wind down this episode of Wrestling with Johners, I've got to talk about your current champions. Now, we've spoken about them, a couple of them already, but Arthur Starrick, a great talent. I've got to be honest with you. I wasn't too familiar with Arthur before your November show last year, but by the end of that show, I was a complete believer and a real fan of his, a fantastic athlete, a great performer, and he is your current cruiserweight champion, isn't he?
And I say that, and I that is to be said of pride. To be the champion, obviously, it's not something you just do. You don't just slap a belt on someone because they look good. Well, Vince McMahon has once or twice, but Arthur Starrick really has gone leaps and bounds, and he defended the championship actually on the same night against Amber Joe, because Amber Joe came out. Pardon me, sorry, that's from all the water. Arthur actually answered Amber's open challenge, and it came out and actually put the cruiserweight title on the line. But then, even though Amber lost, she got into a hissy fit, and I say, bless her cotton socks, stealing the title. But yeah, Arthur Starrick, I really am looking forward to seeing who wins from Xander or Dale Johnson on Saturday. If it's Xander, it's going to be another epic matchup. If it's Dale Johnson, it's going to be another epic first-time clash.
Absolutely. Just one more quick look. That's a beautiful championship bout, are all of your championship bouts, including this one here. Frankie T, the current fighting champion of Immortal Wrestling, another fantastic champion, a wonderful bout, and a great representative for that title.
Well, definitely. For a fun story for those watching, I spoke to Frankie after the show, and we were looking through the picture. And he isn't overly fond of this photo, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" And look at it, the quality, the definition on it, and that was captured by Greg Davidson of Y2 Gray Photography, and you can follow them on social media at Y2 GRAE. Brilliant photographer. He's always open to any and all ideas. Sorry, that's me plugging him, but out of respect, he could capture such great photography, and he did that from Arthur Starrick, Frankie T, and the other photos that you're about to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And another beautiful championship bout there that Frankie currently holds and will be defending on Saturday against Champagne Charlie and Amber Joe. This one here, the Immortal Wrestling Women's Championship, another beautiful bout. I love the white leather strap. It really is a fantastic championship bout. And of course, you've got Madison Miles and Nightshade fighting over this on Saturday, but another beautiful championship bout. And I know I've said it before, but your championship bouts are absolutely stunning, including this one. Another bout that you can definitely be proud of. We've already spoken about the King of England championship bout, a little bit of a throwback to the $1 Million Championship, as you explained, but there's no leather there. It's just metal all the way around. Absolutely beautiful.
Quite heavy,
Absolutely, I've seen it up close, and it really is a beautiful bout. And then, of course, you got your British heavyweight championship bout there, another wonderful bout to look at there. That's held with pride by Damien, the current champion, of course, and you can see him there in that picture there. There we go. But you've got
just look lovely.
You've got absolutely some a great roster of champions and a fantastic championship bout collection. But tag team titles. Now, without giving too much away, tag team titles is something that you've got one eye on for the future. You've got lots of singles champions, but you're looking to extend that with another set of bouts later on in the year. Can you kind of elaborate or kind of give our listeners or viewers any ideas of what you have in store for the championship bouts going forward?
Is it okay? Talk about the belts. Can I just plug the belt maker and the creator?
100%. Go for it. Yeah.
JFX 3D. His name is John Nursel. Created all the belts. Spoke to me every single step of the way for the design. He was open. He wasn't like, oh, you've got to pay more for this or that. It was just a set standard fee and as much customization as you want. And they all come with a bag belt. And he himself actually came and delivered the King of England Championship to me at my home because he didn't want to send a belt of such quality and that had taken so much time through the post. Yeah. So if you need belts, JFX 3D, John Nursel, absolute standout guy. But going back to it, the tag team, yes, I've spoken to John about a few designs, not you yourself, but the other John. And I can say we might be looking at a darkish blue strap, something a bit odd and something a bit different. I myself have put out some crazy ideas, like going back to when it was create a belt on 2008 WWE SmackDown versus Raw. You could change like the strap and it was like fire or like tiger scratches, and I was like, oh, let's have a blue flame, and he was like, do you really want it to stand out that much? And I was like, I looked at the other designs and I was like, yeah, you're right. Let's go with something a little bit more simple. So we currently have a design, and we're working on a strap color. But the plan for the tag titles will be to have a tournament which just on the night is dedicated to tag team. So obviously elimination style.
That'd be great.
Quarterfinal, semi-final, final. I think the plan was. It may just be quarter, semi, then final. Oh, God. Oops. Shouldn't have said that. So there's a little disclose for the when we do the tag titles. Quarter-final, semi-final, final.
But tag titles are kind of part of your plans for the future, so very
they
very
are coming. Yes,
there.
They are coming.
And I'm a huge fan of tag team wrestling, as everybody knows.
As you said, as you said,
many times. Now I want to talk about you accompanied me to a Wrestle Carnival show. I checked before we went live, and it was October last year, ahead of your We Go Again show in November, and we kind of took the 3-hour journey up to Nottingham. Had a great day in Nottingham, did lots of backstage interviews, got to say hi and met some amazing talent. Besides seeing the fantastic matches, I think the highlight of the night was Chris Ridgway versus Jonathan Gresham in that Pure Rules match. Absolutely.
25 minutes? 25 minutes?
A screamer of a match. Backstage, we got to meet all the talent, said hi to John Grace and Jonathan Gresham, had some great photos, some great backstage interviews, as I said. And thank you for accompanying me in that day and being a great cameraman. But I know
my arm. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I'm sure you won't mind me saying, Jay, but on the journey up, you were a little bit feeling a little bit demotivated and not your usual self, should I say? But then, having that experience, being with me for the day in Nottingham, seeing the talent backstage, getting to see some fantastic action, that kind of reignited the flames for you a little bit, didn't it? Tell us what that day did for you, because I think that had a bit of a knock-on effect to the show we had in November for Immortal Wrestling, but that kind of gave you a bit of a boost, didn't it?
Yeah, I was sort of lost. I was like, the show's good as it is, but I was like, surely it could be better. And I felt like I was in a cloudy place, like, who do I speak to? What could I do? And I'm actually really grateful for you letting me come to Wrestle Carnival, because just when we stepped through the doors, I saw the size of their venue compared to ours, and I was like, damn, this is. I said to myself straight away, this is what I want at some point. And then when we went backstage, I was like, this talent as well. And no disrespect to the current talent, but I want to be on the same standard Wrestle Carnivals. And I'm not saying none of the talent that I currently use aren't from that. Everyone has their own strengths and qualities. And I know who I want to take with me going forward, which is my own preference. But seeing the talent and the matches that were laid out and planned really gave me inspiration. Because originally, it was just going to be a fatal four-way with Jody Fleisch, Drake Winter, Dalton, Garrett, and Sunset Skip. But I was like, let's make it international. Let's add the Favor. Let's add Shane Saber and Cameron Socrates. And it just made it so much better and sweeter. And I remember on the way back, I don't know, I think we were just coming up to Gloucester and I was struggling to stay awake. Because I was holding the camera like that for you all the time. And I was like, it's got to be at a certain height because we interviewed Memes and he was actually taller than your banner. He actually was very kind to actually kneel down to height. And I looked up to him, and because you told me you wanted in the shot, I was like, do you want me to look up to him and swap back to you? What do you want me to do here? Yeah, and we also interviewed man like DeReese. We were going to use John Grace and Jonathan Gresham, but sadly they had to go because I think their flight was the next day. But we interviewed Jetta, Charles Crowley as well. Yeah, his interview with you was interesting. Who else did you interview? I think you interviewed.
I can't even remember now, to be honest with you. I know that we had a good, we had a couple of interviews with Memes. I know Memes was fantastic, but I think it's important that when you're kind of invited backstage at another promotion or have a chance to see another promotion, it does kind of give you food for thought and motivation and inspires you to want to make your product better. I'm glad that you accompanied me on
I'm
that
grateful
day
for the opportunity.
that it helped. And I think it's just been kind of, it's been going from strength to strength ever since, to be honest with you. But as we kind of come to a close, now, I don't know if you, let me see if on social media on the 9th of April, I think this was on your Facebook, you put out a post on your Immortal Wrestling page. It says, what attainable dream matches would you like to see happen in Immortal Wrestling? And you got a great response from people all over the UK, from wrestlers alike as well, that responded to that post, wanting to tell you what dream matches they would like to see in Immortal Wrestling. But I'm going to throw it back to you now, Jay, as the promoter, as the owner of Immortal Wrestling. Are there really kind of like, I don't know, and this could be as far-fetched as you would like, international talent, but are there any kind of dream matches that you would like to put together? Now, we've already spoken about some amazing dream matches that you've actually got in reality on Saturday from the Venom Nightclub, but are there any kind of like fantasy booking now, dream matches that you would like on your show sometime in the future, if you could, if money was not an object?
Yeah, I'd like to. Johnny and Jody have clashed so many times, but they always put on a 5-star match, and I want to have that. I want to be like known as one of the promotions that weren't just blind and be like, yeah, it's Johnny and Jody, they wrestle all the time. I'd be like, but we got to see one of their 5-star classics, and our fans got to see one of those 5-star classics. So definitely Johnny and Jody at some point down the line. I'd also like to have would it be 2 generations? I'd like to have Ricky Knight Jr. versus Ricky Knight Sr., which would be sort of clash of the generations, because that would be another one. I'm trying to think of some other ones now. Amber Joe versus Curtis Elliott would be a good one, I think.
Definitely.
Potentially as well.
That would be good.
The team of Pure Beef, Will Cruz and his Blake, if I'm remembering.
Blake. Yeah. Yes,
I'd love to, for one, they only split Pure Beef up, and how Will Cruz, sorry, tongue twisted. Will versus Blake, 2 absolute behemoths, yet to reach their prime, but they're yet to reach their prime, but they currently look like they're in their prime. But in my opinion, they're still to reach it. I think we would need to reinforce the ring for the slams that those two would do on each other. Or Adam Bolt versus Riley Nova. Because when we went to Wrestle Carnival, it was pure beef versus Adam Bolt and Riley Nova. And after the show, we actually asked them, had they tagged before? And they were like, no, this is the first time. And we were like, you guys had great chemistry. It was back and forth. It was like you had gelled together before. It's like you fought this over for days on end to come up with a perfect match. But no, this was the first time. I would love to showcase that match again, but also have Will versus Blake and Adam Bolt versus Riley Nova, because I think those matches themselves, an absolute clash of behemoths, which people love. They love good versus bad. And the technical prowess and ability that Adam Bolt and Riley Nova both possess, I really think could be a potential, if they were to really go at it, a show-stealing match.
I think you've got the hallmarks of another great card there, kind of bubbling away under the surface.
It's all going on in here, in this chrome dome, in this shiny chrome dome that you see.
Absolutely. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you for your socials, where my fans, listeners can reach out to you. But before we do, Jay, I'm going to, if people aren't aware, I'm going to let my listeners and viewers know who my next two guests are going to be.
Sure, I'd love to hear myself, so I know.
Just a day before Immortal Wrestling's next show, on Friday the 22nd, we've got a gentleman that we spoke about earlier that's going to be at Immortal.
I think I know who you're going to say.
Oh,
the big man.
So he's going to be my guest Friday the 22nd of April, live on the Wrestling with Jonathan podcast, 8 p.m. UK. You're not going to want to miss that one. And then next Monday the 25th of April, 8 p.m. live. If you don't know already, I've got the OTT World Champion, the TNT Ultra X Champion, Mark Haskins, a legend of the UK scene. In his absolute prime at the moment. He's wrestled all over the world. He's wrestled at Madison Square Gardens. He's wrestled for Ring of Honor, Impact, all over the UK. But one of the best in business, regardless of country or continent. He is one of the very best and one of my biggest guests I've ever had on the Wrestling with Jonathan podcast. So Yeston Reese is coming Friday, and next Monday, Mark Haskins. Jay, some pretty impressive guests to look forward to there. Not bad.
What a lineup that is. Sorry, I've got to say myself, but a lineup that is, you don't want to miss that. I, for myself, will not be missing that. So I gratefully encourage you. I'll share it myself on the social medias, but I definitely won't be missing the Yeston Reese, because I want to hear what he has to say about my match stage. So Yeston, if you're watching now, Yeston, I'm going to be listening very, very carefully to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, it's been great.
To close the show, I'm going to throw it to you. So if any of my listeners or viewers want to reach out to you, say hi to you, learn more about Immortal Wrestling on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, where can they reach out? Where can they say hi? And where can they find out more about Immortal Wrestling?
So the Twitter and Instagram handle is Wrestle Immortal, all one word, no underscore anything. Yeah, right below. Where's my finger? Right.
There we go.
Wait, it's going there we go. Right there. YouTube Immortal Wrestling, and I myself, we have a Facebook for wrestling, the fans and the wrestlers themselves. It's Jay White, and it has the IW logo in black and white. Feel free to message me on there. I try to respond as often as I can. Or the actual Facebook page itself, Immortal Wrestling. We have over 2,000 likes, I believe. On Instagram, we're closing in on 1,200 followers. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for helping us recently break over 700 followers on Twitter itself.
That's great. That really is great. But Jay, I can't wait for Immortality Awaits on April the 23rd. If you haven't already got your tickets, and if you're interested in going, if listening to this podcast has inspired you, and you want to sample that amazing card that we spoke about earlier, Jay, where can we get tickets from?
You can they're on the Immortal Wrestling Facebook page, the pinned comment at the top, showcasing the poster which you did of Yeston Reese, Damien, and that there is a link. If you click for more, it will following Eventbrite. It does include the ticket fee, so there won't be anything added on, or you could purchase them on the night on the door. Obviously, the advantage of purchasing online, you're guaranteed. We don't specify if someone. We only reserved space for tickets for front row, for example, if someone has purchased them beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely. But go to Eventbrite, search Immortal Wrestling, go to the pinned post at the top of the Facebook page, Immortal Wrestling Facebook page, and you will not be disappointed. But Jay, it's been an honor and a pleasure speaking to you for the last hour or so.
Thank you. Yeah,
can't wait for Saturday's show. And thank you very much for being a good friend. And we'll catch up with you soon, buddy.
And thank you too. Have a nice evening, John. I'm going to go to sleep now.
Hey,
I'll see you Saturday. Thanks, Jonas.
Thanks for watching.